mixed race and belonging. Why the best of both worlds is a myth. Would it surprise you to know that being mixed race doesn't feel like having the best of both worlds, but instead it feels like you don't fully belong to either?
The emotional weight of dual identity.
This video is about the hidden emotional and psychological weight of being mixed. Specifically, in my case, being mixed Asian and white American, and how that constant tightrope walk affects our mental health. Growing up mixed Asian and white while also being an immigrant, I was constantly told that I had this magical dual citizenship to cultural acceptance. Oh, you have an American passport. You can go anywhere and do anything. But here's the truth nobody prepares you for. Being both often feels like being neither. You're constantly switching masks, adjusting your accent, softening your identity to survive the room you're in. You learn to read between the lines, anticipate rejection, even from your own community. That passport begins to feel more like a burden than a gift. You've probably heard it. Mixed kids are so lucky. They get to experience the best of both worlds. Twice the culture, twice the privilege. It's meant as a compliment. It sounds flattering, but here's the thing. It ignores the internal conflict. The truth is, we're not getting the best of both worlds. We're constantly being asked to prove that we belong to either.
Cultural code switching and its impact.
But where are you really from? That one question says it all. People are trying to identify you and put you into their mental box. And guess what? They can't because you don't fit. You're too Asian for your white friends and family, and then you're too white for your Asian friends and family. You start to feel like you're living in translation, a constant interpreter of culture, tone, and expectations. You may have already experienced depersonalization and derealization, where everything starts to feel distant. You start to feel like you're floating outside of yourself, or you're in a movie that you're not quite part of. A recent study from 2024 found that young people who are mixed race and struggle with feeling like they're not enough for any of their cultural backgrounds often deal with more stress and mental health challenges. It shows how racial imposter syndrome, feeling like you don't fully belong anywhere, can deeply affect multiracial individuals and leave them feeling torn between identities. What happens when your identity becomes a performance? You learn to code switch between cultures, translate jokes, downplay one side, amplify the other, laugh at things that you don't find funny, pretend to know customs you were never taught. You become a chameleon, and not because it's fun, but it's necessary for you to feel safe. Over time, that balancing act doesn't just get exhausting, it erodes your sense of authenticity. You start to wonder, who am I when I'm not performing? Because code switching isn't just a quirky skill, it's a survival mechanism. It's how you avoid judgment. It's how you stay included, how you protect yourself from being told that you're too much of one thing and not enough of another. But in the process, pieces of you go quiet, parts of you shrink, until you're no longer sure if the silence is comfort or just coping. Studies show this constant identity management increases anxiety and lowers self-esteem. You become hyper aware of how you're perceived by different groups. And gradually, over the years, you begin to lose a sense of who you really are.
Microaggressions and identity management.
You look exotic. What are you? It sounds like a compliment. And to be fair, some people do take it that way. But when you really sit with it, it's not a compliment. It makes you feel like an anomaly, like you're some kind of rare specimen on display. Wow, you're so exotic. You must be so cultured. It's the kind of praise that objectifies. You're admired, but not understood. Observed, but not seen. These comments often come from a place of curiosity or even admiration, but they're still microaggressions. Microaggressions, while often unintentional, are not harmless. They pile up. They chip away at your sense of belonging, one offhand comment at a time. You start second guessing how you present yourself. You wonder if people are talking to you or the identity they projected onto you. You learn to anticipate the questions. What are you? Where are you from? And brace for the awkwardness. And after a while, it doesn't feel like you're being celebrated for who you are, but it feels more like you're being dissected for what you are. You don't just speak and live two cultures, you explain them. You're not just a normal human being like everyone else who just wants to live life fully in themselves and fully present in the moment. You're always the bridge, the translator, the peacekeeper. You're fluent in dual traditions, dual languages, dual expectations. It's a job you never really applied for, and you never got thanked doing it. You're expected to soften sharp edges, explain slangs, explain why your people do that thing, then just as easily explain yourself to your own community, why you don't speak the language fluently, you don't know that one dish, or why you're too American, too white, too westernized. You start policing yourself even before others can. You pre-edit what you say, you dress a certain way to avoid judgment. You shift your tone depending on the room. You become hyper aware of how you're perceived, always anticipating critique from both sides. And that constant self-surveillance, it's exhausting. This isn't just awkward or uncomfortable. It takes real mental toll.
The invisible labor of belonging.
The pressure to be everything to everyone, but not feel truly accepted by anyone, creates a kind of burnout. Identity burnout. This kind of emotional labor is invisible, but it's relentless. You're not only just managing your own identity, but you're also having to be hyper aware and managing other people's expectations and discomfort too. Whether it's family demanding loyalty to traditions you barely remember, or society putting you into one neat checkbox, you end up feeling like you're constantly falling short. And because this labor isn't recognized, it often goes unprocessed. The stress compounds. You don't rest. You perform. You represent. You defend. You carry the weight of being misunderstood. And it weighs more than people think.
Redefining mixed race identity.
What if the goal isn't to belong, but to create? For so long, mixed race people have been told to choose, to pick a side, to simplify who they are for the comfort of others. We're no longer trying to fit into pre-made molds that were never made for us in the first place. Instead, we're building new blueprints. New cultural identities that don't ask permission or need to be validated by tradition. We're redefining what it means to be enough. Through art, music, storytelling, language, activism, community, mixed race individuals are showing up in their fullness, unapologetic, unfiltered, and in control of the narrative. We're no longer just bridges between two cultures. We are cultures in our own right, living proof that identity isn't static. It's layered, evolving, and entirely our own. We're publishing books that tells our stories. We're making films that don't flatten us into stereotypes. We're creating spaces online and in person where nuance isn't something to be explained, it's just understood. So no. The whole best of both worlds idea barely scratches the surface. Being mixed isn't just a fun mix of languages, food, culture. It's complex. It's layered. And yes, sometimes it's isolating. You can feel invisible in rooms where you should belong, and hyper visible in rooms where you don't. But here's the truth: that complexity is also your strength. Once you stop twisting yourself, fitting into someone else's idea of who they think you are, you create space to become who you actually are. Not half of this and half of that, but fully you. That's not confusion. That's clarity. Remember, you're not alone in feeling like you don't fully belong anywhere. A lot of us carry that quiet ache. But the good news is, you don't have to pick a side to feel whole. You were never meant to live in halves. Being mixed isn't about balancing two worlds. It's about building one that finally feels like home. And if you think identity struggle ends there, wait until you see what happens when assimilation demands you to choose, shrink, or disappear. That's what we'll be talking about next time in our mini series about being mixed and not quite belonging. Thanks for watching.